करोड़ टॉयलेट बने। ये बड़ी बात नहीं है, मगर टॉयलेट के साथ में 8 करोड़ लोगों को जो ओपन में शौच जाने की जो अपनी आदत थी, उसको आदत बदलने में भी मोदी साहब वो सफल रहे और आज 60 करोड़ लोग जो ओपन में शौच जाते थे, अभी वो टॉयलेट का यूज़ करने लगे हैं। इससे फ़ायदा भी हुआ। जो महिलाओं के सशक्तिकरण की हम बात करते हैं, तो महिला जब शौच के लिए जाती थी, तो उनको बाहर जाना पड़ता था। अंधेरा होगा उसकी राह देखनी पड़ती थी। उनकी सिक्योरिटी का भी प्रॉब्लम आता था, कभी-कभी अटैक भी हो जाते थे और अगर अटैक नहीं भी हुए, तो अगर पूरे दिन में अगर उन्हें कहीं शौच के लिए जाना है, तो शाम का और उसके लिए जो कचरा शरीर में नहीं रखना है, उसको भी रखना पड़ता था। उसकी वजह से उसके शरीर के अंदर कोई ना कोई रोग भी होने की संभावना थी। उन्होंने महिला सशक्तिकरण की बात को ज़मीन पे उतारा। स्वच्छता के माध्यम से उन्होंने महिलाओं को सशक्त भी किया, सुरक्षित भी किया और आरोग्य की दृष्टि से भी उन्होंने बहुत बड़ा काम किया। डब्ल्यूएचओ कहता है कि 10 साल के अंदर स्वच्छता के ऊपर जो मोदी साहब ने काम किया, उसकी वजह से करीब 3 लाख बच्चों की मौत को रोक सके हैं। ये भी अपने आप में बहुत बड़ा फिगर है कि 3 लाख बच्चे जो 5 साल के नीचे के थे, जो शौच के लिए ओपन में जाते थे, उनको डायरिया वगैरह रोग होने के कारण उनकी मृत्यु होती थी, उसको रोकने में भी ये सफल रहे हैं। उसी तरह पानी का भी था। पूरी दुनिया ऐसा मानती थी कि भारत में स्वच्छ पानी, शुद्ध पानी मिलता नहीं है। सबको पानी के लिए भी कहीं दूर तक जाना पड़ता था। वही महिला सशक्तिकरण के बाद भी ये पानी के लिए आई। मोदी साहब ने हर घर नल से जल देने के जो कार्यक्रम शुरू किया, 5 साल के अंदर जब कार्यक्रम शुरू किया, तब 39% लोगों के पास ओके घर में पानी आना शुरू हो जाए, उसके लिए उन्होंने सफलतापूर्वक काम किया। सिर्फ पानी नहीं पहुंचा, मगर शुद्ध पानी पहुंचा। उनको जो आवश्यकता है उतना पूरा पानी यानी क्वांटिटी भी उनको वो पूरी पानी की मिली। तो ये नल से जल के कारण क्या हुआ, महिला के सशक्तिकरण की बात यहाँ भी आई। जो महिलाएं रोज दूर तक पानी के लिए जाती थी, पानी का बोझ उठाकर आती थी, उसके अंदर डब्ल्यूएचओ का रिपोर्ट कहता है कि यह योजना के कारण महिलाओं के 5.5 करोड़ घंटे वो रोज के बचे हैं। 5.5 करोड़ घंटे के कारण ये महिला अपने घर पे ध्यान दे सकती है, अपने बच्चों के एजुकेशन के लिए काम कर सकती है, अपने आर्थिक के लिए भी ये समय को खर्च कर सकती है। तो महिला सशक्त भी हुई। उनको इतना दूर तक जाना पड़ता था, बोझ उठाना पड़ता था, उसमें मिला। वो अपने फैमिली में, अपने बच्चों में वो उसने खर्च किया। सिर्फ इतना भी नहीं हुआ, अब सब जानते हो कि सबसे ज्यादा से होती है और पानी के कारण कई जगह इंजेक्शन लेने पड़ते हैं, कई लोगों को दवाइयां लेनी पड़ती है। डब्ल्यू करीब 8.4 लाख करोड़ रुपए जो अलग-अलग फैमिली को मिलाकर जो खर्च होते थे, वो भी बचे हैं। पैसा तो बचा, इतनी बड़ी रकम वो तो बची है, मगर साथ में बच्चों के या किसी भी मानव शरीर के अंदर अगर कोई ड्रग जाता है, इंजेक्शन उसके रिएक्शन आ सकते हैं, तो उसमें उसकी सबको छुटकारा मिला। आज उनको कोई भी दवा लेने की आवश्यकता नहीं पड़ी और पैसे की भी बचत हुई। तो महिलाओं को भी फायदा हुआ, उनको दूर तक आना वो भी बचा, बच्चों का भी बचा। और डब्ल्यूएचओ कहता है कि जब तक ये योजना पूरी होगी, तब तक 4 लाख मौतों को रोका जा सकेगा। तो इतना बड़ा काम भी उसके अंदर होता है। ये हम नहीं कह रहे, डब्ल्यूएचओ का रिपोर्ट कह रहा है। दोनों जगह के स्वच्छता के बारे में भी 3 लाख मौत रोकी गई, पानी के कारण भी 4 लाख मौतों को रोका जाएगा, वो भी उनका ही रिपोर्ट कह रहा है। आज दुनिया देख रही है कि जो उनको कल्पना थी कि एक प्रधानमंत्री, एक देश का प्रधानमंत्री और वो भी क्वालिटी के साथ, क्वांटिटी के साथ उसको सफलतापूर्वक करना, ये कोई आसान काम नहीं है और वो भी नरेंद्र मोदी जी कर सकते हैं। और इसीलिए कि भारत के लोग कहते हैं कि मोदी है तो मुमकिन है। और ये इसमें नहीं, हर स्तर में उन्होंने काम किया है। मगर आज का जो पैनलिस्ट बात करने वाले हैं, मेरी दोनों से रिक्वेस्ट है, दोनों पैनलिस्ट से रिक्वेस्ट है और इसमें अगर कोई सुझाव हो, योजना के अंदर हम क्या अच्छा कर सकते हैं, वो बताइए। अगर कोई गलती हो रही है, तो वो भी सुधार करने के लिए हम कोशिश करेंगे। आप सबके साथ और सहकार के साथ हम उसके अंदर आगे बढ़ेंगे और आप दुनिया को भी बताइए कि क्या संभव हो सकता है। अगर ये योजना के पहले किसी को बता दे तो कोई मानता नहीं कि इतना काम हो सकता है। आपके द्वारा अगर ये बात जाएगी, तो ज़रूर दुनिया को पता चलेगा कि भारत में अभी स्वच्छता भी है, भारत में अभी शुद्ध जल भी है और इसके कारण भारत जो हर सेक्टर में आगे बढ़ रहा है और जो तीसरे नंबर की इकोनॉमी की तरफ आगे जाने की कोशिश कर रहा है, तो हर तरफ से वो आगे बढ़ेगा। ये मैं आपको नरेंद्र मोदी साहब के लीडरशिप में ही ये संभव है, आपको मैं विश्वास के साथ कह सकता हूँ। आप सबका बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद। भारत माता की।
I just wanted to summarize this on one note. First of all, standing on a global podium and being able to own your national language is there's a sense of love for the nation, pride for the nation, which I believe, sir, completely, embodies. And I think that is something that's worth an applaud. Having the courage to do that today and own the pride that India is. So that is one thing, sir. Thank you. Hindi ma bolwa mate. Sorry.
Thank you.
That in 2014, Modi ji actually announced that he was going to work on something called Open Defecation Free India, right? Something which is very unthought of leaders to speak about. People used to talk about going into nuclear power, going into space technology, going into biotech, into genome research. But he spoke about open defecation free, something that only a leader who is born from the troubles of the ground, from looking at the world from scratch, and who looks at nation building from the grounds up, can actually look to understand the problems of. And sir, his entire team, sir and otherwise, Patil sir and otherwise, have embodied that, have actually created that vision and delivered upon that in the last 10 years. And that is something that is truly heartening. And makes me proud and full of emotion to be part of that story.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We would love to play a small video about the journey of India in these two spaces. Maybe please start the video.
To save humanity, we must save water. This story, the water story of India. Water scarcity in some places, education abandoned, infants lost to contaminated water, rapidly depleting groundwater level, forced to practice open defecation, contaminating both land and water sources. Wednesday in 2019, we took a pledge to provide clean drinking water through tap. 0.44 million rural households by 2025. A network of 600,000 kilometers of water pipelines was laid. 150 million water taps were installed in 5 years. Villages, women most affected by this crisis, were made captains of this mission. Water reaching homes was just next frontier. We created an unprecedented network of 2,160 water testing labs across step. 2.5 million women from 500,000 villages transformed into water quality scientists. Needed a clean environment. Water management wasn't enough. Sanitation was equally crucial. Women had lack of sanitation, facing diseases, exploitation, and danger. In 2014, we resolved to the Swachh Bharat mission, and in 10 years, built over 120 million toilets. This world's largest behavioral transformation movement helped 600 million people embrace dignity through sanitation, in its purest form since independence. But my story is more than statistics. It's about saving 55 million person hours daily that were once spent carrying water. It's about preventing 400 annual deaths from waterborne diseases. This isn't just a story about cleaning rivers, it is also a saga of connecting them. It's a journey from impossible to possible. It's a story of the welfare of this world to realize our centuries-old philosophy of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The world is one family.
Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to invite some of the panelists to come so that we can have a picture with sir to commemorate this event. Rajiv sir, I want to invite sir. पहला एक photo we'll take a photo first and then we'll start the panel. So IS Rajiv Mittal, Minister sir, Archana Vyas. Yes, please. Sorry. Mr. Ankit Anand. Stephen Casper, who is the co-founder and CEO of Biochar. Mr. Ankit Anand is the founding partner of Riceberg Ventures. Archana Vyas is the Director of Public Policy and Communications for the Gates Foundation. Rajiv Sir is the Additional Secretary for the Ministry of Jal Shakti. And Mr. Vivek Oberoi, who is an investor and policy advocate in the field of Jal Shakti. I'd like to have a photograph of the panel and Mr. Tim Wright, who is the CEO of WaterAid.
Sabine, you also join. Sabine, you can. Sabine, you should be in the middle. I in the center.
I'll just sit down.
Since you're so tall, there's no problem. You don't need to sit down. Everybody controls this camera, please.
We would also like to, sir, તમારે થી જ ટ્રેનિંગ લીધી છે ને તો કરવું જ પડે. સર 1 મિનિટ હજી ઊભા રહેજો. We would also like to invite the other panelists, sir. Will you be seated for a bit? Tim, can you, Mr. Keshav Daga from PSI, Anurima Malik, who is the head of communications at Vedanta. Yeah, Mithil sir is our steady support. Gaurav Gupta, please be on the stage. And Michael, can you please grace the stage? Michael Newsom is from the UNICEF. Please. So we would like to begin with the first panel. Yeah, please. Thank you, sir.
I don't know which channel I'm on.
Yes.
Am I on the first panel? Thank you.
Panel as well. Yeah. Can you please grace us, Rajiv sir? Thank you.
We're actually using the podium.
Actually, you'll be using the phone.
Just one second. Thank you so much all for gracing us with your presence. I'm so sorry my mic handling is a little over the place today. Yeah.
I get the podium. You take the podium.
My head is too small for it. It genuinely is. Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
It's a small room. It's audible.
Oh, no, that's so sweet. No, thank you. No, it's okay. I'll hold it. Thank you. No, so thank you so much, guys, for gracing us with your presence. We are truly honored to discuss the wash story of India to begin with. On that note, Rajiv sir, if you can please help us understand the wash story of India in a brief summary, that would be really helpful. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thanks to all of you for joining us and giving us an opportunity to present valuable insights from the Indian story. I mean, what Minister Sab spoke has already been reflected in the movie which you have just seen. And I will not, like to elaborate on what we have done. I would be setting the tone for this panel in terms of what is the future plans in next 5 years, what do we intend to do, and what are the expectations from the various stakeholders in terms of how all the stakeholders can collaborate and contribute towards these efforts. So when we look at the unfinished task in the Jal Jeevan mission, I mean, as you have seen from the video, a lot of work has been done in Jal Jeevan mission, and almost 15 crores, I mean, which will be translated into 1.5 billion. Those kind of numbers, we have provided the water connections through pipe water supply. Now, when we look to the future, the sustainability part becomes very important for all these efforts which we have taken. The main challenge which we see in future involves a lot of collaboration from the industries and NGOs towards the technological innovations, policy support, and the on-ground implementation. If I have to list out few specific areas which we are thinking to work forward for the next 5-10 years, first is the sustainability and functionality of whatever water assets have been created. That is going to be a major challenge before us. Second is the water source. India, as you know, has a problem in terms of the water levels in the ground. So whatever sources which are functioning very well in water supplies, in future, how do we support and how do we sustain that these water sources behave adequately to serve the water needs? Third is decentralizing and ensuring community control over the water assets. Because presently, all these water assets are owned by the government. But gradually, the number of assets is huge, and these assets ownership have to be transformed to the common public for a better uptake and care. Finally, I mean, when we look at in terms of the overall governance framework, we need to have a regulatory framework where the water quality standards, water delivery standards are adhered to. And we need water utilities which adhere to these delivery standards. And finally, India is a growing country. We have a growing population. So whatever gains we have achieved till today also needs to be continued in terms of the new population, new habitations. They have to be taken care of. And last but not the least, the water quality standards also needs to be taken care of when we ensure water supply to all the public of the country. So these will be the primary focus in the next phase or the coming 4-5 years before us when we take the Jal Jeevan mission forward. Now, coming from the expectations from the various stakeholders, the industries, the NGOs, the multilateral agencies, Jal Jeevan mission had basically laid a very solid foundation, a very strong foundation for a transformative change. However, we need support of all the players to take them forward. The organizations, the industries have a huge role to play in all of our efforts. First is like aiding the policy formulation. What we have learned, what we have dealt and now needs to be evaluated, and further policy refinement needs to be taken care of by learning from these experiences. And as you know, I mean, evaluating self is a very difficult process. A strong feedback, a positive evaluation, a critical evaluation is going to help us in refining the policy and taking the program forward. Second is implementation. Today also we get a lot of complaints that you have given gel, you have given null, but not gel. I mean, tap is there, but water is not flowing into the tap. So these kind of feedbacks are going to help us in improving the service delivery. Third, in terms of new technology, we need a lot of proof of concepts. We are getting a lot of technologies, but how to test them, how to implement them, there we need a lot of partnership to take them forward. And finally, I will request, since Jal Jeevan mission is implemented at the level of the provincial governments, we need a lot of partnership with the states in all aspects, whether it is implementation, whether it is the capacity building, whether it's the technology introduction. So those kind of efforts are required. And I'm sure today's session, today's forum, today's deliberations will take this movement forward and also help us in recalibrating for the future plan of this mega event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajiv sir, for summarizing this beautifully, and not just summarizing, but giving a clear direction of where we are going and how we can all work collaboratively. On that note, I would like to start with a question with you, Michael. From your perspective, how can India leverage its success in universal wash programs like Jal Jeevan Mission? You have worked globally in the global private sectors with UNICEF. So, how do you see the Jal Jeevan Mission and the Swachh Bharat Mission? How do you see them fostering effective global collaborations, especially owing to the goal of achieving collective SDG 6 targets?
Thank you for the question. And first of all, thank you for inviting me to be here. I'm here on behalf of UNICEF in India. I also want to just start by just first of all congratulating India and congratulating the ministry. The results are staggering. Let's be really clear. Your video showed a situation where the investment, the scale, the commitment has led to the saving of around 400,000 lives per year from diarrheal diseases. That's a profound success. And I just want to start by saying congratulations. These are results to be incredibly proud of, and we're very proud of the partnership we have with the ministry. I'm not going to presume to tell India how to do things. Let me start with that point as well. That would be arrogant, but we would be pleased to continue our support and our collaboration. It is a collaboration we're very proud of. Just a few thoughts to share. India has a story to tell. Any country that delivers the kinds of results at the kind of scale that you've been delivering has a story to share with the world. And we congratulate you and we encourage you. We'd be very pleased. One thing that we try to do is support countries where there is a story to tell, to transplant the learning as much as we can. And we'd be very pleased to continue to do that. Just a few quick thoughts in terms of things to share. Yes, global best practice. The technical assistance that you can provide to other countries, I think would be phenomenal, and we'd really be pleased to support on that. The ability to provide public advocacy. We know country by country where we work, actually delivering these kinds of results are not just about interventions. They're not just about scale of money. They're about a change in policy, a commitment, a leadership that delivers and drives results. You have the ability to do that. We encourage and support you to do that too. The international research and development. This is not a level of results designed by plumbers. This is designed by great thinking, great minds, academia, partnerships with incredible organizations, including on the panel here. We encourage you to continue that and to share, and we'll join you with that too, and help together to build the capacity of other countries that would like to go on the same journey. I'll stop there, but again, just to say thank you and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Michael. It's really heartening to see someone who has seen the world appreciate the work that we are doing and celebrate it with us. And on that note, Archana, I would love to ask you. So Archana is the Director of Program Advocacy and Communications for the Gate Foundation. And as Michael mentioned, that we can lead the world in advocacy around these sensitive areas, I would really want to understand, with your work in Gates Foundation, it has been a significant body of work in advocacy for equitable access, especially to resources like clean water. What are the policies or framework do you believe are most crucial to ensuring water security? And as a fundamental human right, how can we treat it forward? How can we use India's success story as a marker in developing policy advocacy?
Thanks a lot, and thank you once again for having me here. It's a great privilege. Indeed, privilege to be partnering with your ministry as well as Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and to be working with all the incredible partners who are actually my co-panelists as well. So I would say that 2-3 things. One is that the goal, whether it was for Swachh Bharat Mission and then for piped water, the goal was really clear, and that conviction and that mission came from the top. The goal of open defecation free, which means that nobody should be actually defecating in the open. That's a clear goal. And everybody knew where you had to go. So there was a huge marshalling of the public sector, but also private sector. Entertainment industry joined in, as well as the communities had to be mobilized as well. So it was really coming from that goal, and then even with following up with piped water, again making sure that there is no house that gets left behind as far as piped water is concerned. There has never been such a tremendous progress over these such mass scale programs in a vast country like India with a population of 1.4 billion people, and for that scale to be delivered within a period of 5 years, right? So time period, when it comes to policy making, the time period was very clear and the goal was very clear. And then I think it's about how the government machinery would work, which is that you activate every level, because the program has to be delivered in state, it has to be delivered district, and it has to be delivered in villages. So mobilizing of the entire government machinery right till the bottom, which goes on to panchayats and villages, was then delivered, right? So the entire governance structure, whether it is from prime minister to chief minister to district magistrate to village panchayats, everybody was mobilized and everybody was given that single target. And community engagement was actually delivered through community pride, which is norm shifting as well, where people were actually defecating in the open. How do you mobilize that community to say, go build a toilet? And that's a new norm. So the government was establishing a new norm, but transferring that pride and transferring that norm to community. So I think it's a beautiful case study. Like you say, it is a case for the world in terms of how do you mobilize public programs at scale, deliver it to 1.4 billion people in a time period of 5 years. There are many lessons. Gates Foundation is again, we are very privileged. We have offices outside India. We've because from ODF to ODF plus, which is all about sustainability of that program, because after all, the communities have to own it, right? And we're privileged. We've got many countries visiting India, looking at this program closely, because this sets the tone for the global South. Because there are still billions of people who still do not have access to safe sanitation, and what are the lessons that can be learned from India to the other parts of the world? We are very happy to join you in that journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Archana. It's a testament to the success of Indian democracy and the vision of PM Modi that was delivered seamlessly across all areas of governance and bureaucracy when partners sing the praise of what has been done. And we don't have to say it ourselves, isn't it? On that note, I would love to ask a question to you, Gaurav. Gaurav is a dear friend and the global managing partner of Dalberg. Dalberg is an impact consulting firm with global repute. In your thoughts, how can, as Archana mentioned, collaboration was the key to success of the mission. How can public-private collaborations be leveraged to accelerate the implementation of initiatives like Jal Jeevan Mission and ensure a long-term success?
Thanks for that question, and thanks for inviting me. One thing I would just note is what I really have appreciated and what I've heard is not only that there has been success, but everyone is constructively dissatisfied. and so, I think it's less, what gives me hope is less the achievements of the past, but the attitude to the future. And so I think this is fantastic. And I think your question, I would just add another, I think it's public, private, and community partnerships, because actually the greatest learning for our future is where have we really, really succeeded? Because our success is uneven. If one of the reports we worked with was with Niti Aayog, which looked at a water index in different states. And I think that's a great place to look at certain states have done more. And how do we have that scale across India? Rajasthan has been a success story, probably facing some of the most acute issues on water. And the secret to that has been public-private community. It's not public-private. It's actually decentralizing, and it was mentioned earlier as well, decentralizing this as fast as we can, because communities, when they manage their own water, they've been doing it for tens of thousands of years, and they haven't had the depletion, right? The one other thing, and just to bring this to a global scale, you asked about, how do we take this overseas? I mean, firstly, as Archana was also saying, 25% of the world's population, that's the actual statistic, do not have clean drinking water. It is a massive amount. And one of the principal reasons, which, and this gets back to how the private sector needs to engage, is that, we did this study for the World WWF, and it's published, and you can look at what's behind this. The GDP value of water is $60 trillion. That's actually like 60% of the world's GDP, right? Now, why does that not show up? Because we only look at direct use of water, and businesses only pay for direct use of water. Direct use of water is about 8 trillion. There's 5 times more value in water that is totally uncovered, unnoted. It does not show up in any statistics because of all the ecosystem benefits where we do actually ultimately get value. And I think that is an incredible part of the future, which is how do we really use the measurement and data to drive an even more scientific approach to managing what is becoming an increasingly scarce resource. The government has done such an incredible job, but it faces a very uphill battle because by 2030, our actual demand is about to double. And so I think that's the future we need to prepare for.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. I agree that it's not just about, building public-private partnerships, but actually building communities. And on that note, Rajiv sir, I would like you to throw some light on how Jal Jeevan Mission has empowered women in rural communities to basically develop the village water and sanitation communities, and what role do they play in this process?
Thank you. As we look at the long-term objective towards sustainability of all these initiatives, women are going to play the key role because both water and sanitation, as ministers also spoke, and perhaps many of you may not have understood because he spoke in Hindi, but the crux of his speech was, it is the woman which is the real beneficiary of both these schemes, whether it is sanitation or whether it is the piped water supply. The point he was emphasizing was it is a woman. From the Indian perspective, it is a woman who has to carry the water, who has to make water available for the houses. So, keeping those things in mind, the women have been given a very key role in the long-term plan for both these schemes. So, as Sabine has pointed out, we have village water and sanitation committees where participation from the women have been ensured. And the key decisions on both these schemes will be through the women. And another thing which we have showed in the video, there is a concept called field testing kits. So the water quality testing has been ensured, has been entrusted again in the hands of the women. So all these schemes, whether in terms of quality of the water, how it is being done, the women have been trained, they have been given these kits. So they have been given ownership. So these are the small steps which we have taken. And I'm sure as we grow in this journey, women will have a major role to play in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajiv sir. And yes, women are the future of tomorrow. At least I need to agree to that, right? But I've been privileged to have known amazing women who inspire me every day, one of whom is Anurima as well. You have worked extensively with local communities, and I wanted to understand what are your thoughts on how local communities can be further engaged and empowered to take ownership of water sustainability initiatives, ensuring that active participation is a long-term process.
First of all, thank you for having me here on such a distinguished panel. I think for us at Vedanta specifically, sustainability is at the core of everything that we do. It is our business practice. It is not really something which is a CSR or an ESG communication piece, but it is a business thing for us. And for us, our communities are at that core. So I'm going to actually answer that question with an example. When we found oil in Barmer many years back, and we started drilling there and we started setting up a manufacturing unit, the one thing the communities told us that we don't have meetha pani, which is drinkable water. So there were lots and lots of diseases, etc., that they had. And we said, okay, this is the one thing that we're going to look at. Today, we have 34 sort of small lakes that are Bap Nadis there, which are managed by the community, and 500,000 cubic meters of water today is available to them through about 300 to 400 water ATMs. And that is the power of communities today in any kind of an initiative that we do in India. And to your point, sir, women have led that charge because they were the ones who had to walk that 5 kilometer on the sand dunes in the heat to get that one little bucket of water. So every time a new water ATM is opened, it's a absolute festival where the women are dancing and they're celebrating the fact that there's one more way for us to make their life easy. So I feel as far as community participation is concerned, the first thing that we have to do and what we do is ask them, what do you need? In terms of water, in terms of sanitation, in terms of all other things. There are areas where girls want to talk about menstrual hygiene. There are areas there where they want education around other kinds of hygienic products that they can use. And for communities, it is very important for us to have a bottom-up approach rather than going there and saying, okay, we're the big brothers and we'll solve your problem. Let's hear them out and then, kind of take that forward. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Anurima. Of course, a collaborative approach is what we all know works, and I believe that that is what the government is doing and will do more going forward. But on that note, because we have spoken about Indian success story and how the advocacy of that across the world can play out, Tim, who is, of course, with WaterAid, can you please throw some light on how advocacy can play a bigger role in scaling sustainable water solutions, particularly in regions with acute water crisis and water security issues, in your personal opinion?
Thank you very much. And do you mean the lessons that India can teach
Yes.
the rest of the world? Yeah.
Yes.
I'd love to talk about that. I'd love to make a few comments just in the run up to that and then address that question. So thank you very much indeed for inviting me to speak. I feel slightly humble here because, as I guess you probably know, WaterAid is a federation, and my colleague Madhavan is a leader in India, and he leads an organization that is Indian. It's not, he's my brother, if you like, in our federation. But I happen to be here in Davos, and he is not. So I have talked to him quite carefully about the comments I will make, but and I hope I do them justice. So, and just to say, you probably know this, but WaterAid has been working in India for 3 decades now, and works very closely, and for the last 9 years has been an entirely independent organization, and works very closely with the government on both Swachh Bharat and Jal Jeevan. And part of the sorry, forgive me, I've made my first mistake, and also part of the rural WASH partners grouping. So anyway, to echo the comments many have made already, I mean, Swachh Bharat and Jal Jeevan, JJM. Oh, okay, you're making it too easy now. I mean, it's extraordinary, and has made an impression not just on India, but on the whole world in terms of how many people in the world have gained access to water, gained access to sanitation. So whilst the numbers remaining lacking access are still high, it's been a big part of the progress made in recent years. Toilets at household level and taps to household and the public health gains have been particularly brilliant for women and adolescent girls. So yeah, I think you've covered these issues already, the other panelists, but privacy and security related to sanitation and the burden of fetching water, but others have mentioned this already. And SB 2.0, is that okay? Liquid waste management, grain fecal waste, and doing this as close as possible to the source, on-site sanitation, grey water management, and the potential for contributing to the circular economy by recycling through either energy or agriculture. So I think many really good things here, and I'll summarize at the end of my answer what I think the key lessons are for the rest of the world. I did want to just touch on challenges. So I think climate change is a challenge for everyone in the world, a risk to the sustainability here. So I think it's really important. I mean, this is a point that I would make in any conversation, is to focus on climate resilient solutions and getting that ownership at the community level to operate and manage and maintain facilities. But I also believe that climate change is a bit of an opportunity, because it maybe is an opportunity to reimagine how we manage water within a river basin, and work across the private sector, industry, getting industry to be water positive, valuing it. I completely agree with your point on that earlier. Look at agricultural efficiency that frees up more fresh water for people and livestock to use. Conserving water, surface water, ponds, lakes, wetlands, and recharging aquifers. So there's this really opportunity to inspire more partnership between the private sector, the government, of course, and the people, the communities. So I'm nearly there, don't worry. And within to reimagine operation and maintenance, professionalize, set standards, monitor standards, and separate the provision of service from the people calling to account, and elected accountably, and the role of regulators. So to supply well, and also to hold those using water to account that they're consuming responsibly. So those, I think, are some comments on what is going on in India. 5 key things which I think are messages for the rest of the world are particularly interesting, and particularly to me, because I'm more involved in working in other parts of the world, South Asia and in Africa. The political leadership shown, particularly by your Prime Minister, is unprecedented. And I would love to see more Prime Ministers following his example. The level of public financing in India is so important in the mix. And again, we would love to see similar budgets, similar percentages of GDP in other countries. The approach, I think the others referring to this, the mission-led and sunset clause, very, very effective approach to and aligning the administrative leadership at scale to deliver. Community ownership has been covered multiply. And I think you've only briefly said, but the way that this could be quite, serious, but the way the media played a role and making it everybody's business. Yeah, this is lovely. It was very nice, and the popularization of the movement. So I really think all of these things are things that India should shout about to the rest of the world. Thank you.
No, we plan to do exactly that.
Yeah, please.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Tim. That was truly, truly helpful.
Sorry.
Yeah. Keshav, on that note, if you can help us very quickly understand what are the strategies that can be implemented to ensure that innovative water management solutions are inclusive and accessible to underserved and rural communities, that would be really helpful. And yeah.
Absolutely. I think I'd like to start with, how can digital tools be something that can be used for empowering the communities? I think so. Everybody knows that digital tools are the best way for DEI. It's, to ensure the inclusion of everybody in the community. One of the examples could be, the Jal Doot mission in Assam, which was one of the flagship missions of the Jal Jeevan mission in Assam, which empowered almost 200,000 students to become water ambassadors. Now, this is a chatbot, which is again AI powered, right? A simple chatbot empowered 200,000 students to become water ambassadors. These students would go out, door to door, encourage people to use the clean water that's been provided by the taps. So that's, I think, one of the primary things. Apart from that, again, digital tools, as Sir mentioned earlier, field testing kits were given out to village, Pani Samitis. These are, group of 5 ladies trained in every villages, 600,000 villages. You can imagine the magnitude. These field testing kits, again, now in the future, when this becomes digital, it can provide a lot of insights into the groundwater quality, into the availability of the water table, and can empower the committees to kind of make the right decisions as in tune with the policymakers as well. So I think that's how we can probably use digital tools for empowering communities.
So much, Keshav, for bringing the digital perspective. And, don't we all want to talk more about, the Jal Jeevan mission and the amount of work that has been done in WASH? Because we all have worked on the field. We have, seen the stories and lived the stories of these scarcities and how we have been able to mitigate those challenges. But today, in the interest of time, let's say that. I didn't want to say that, but let's go ahead and just say that. Can you all just very quickly summarize, sir, with you, or Michael, you can start, as to what are the learnings that we are going to take and what are the ways ahead? Just very quickly.
No, very quickly.
What are the ways ahead?
Ways ahead. Ways ahead. Then I'll be very brief and forgive me, I'm going to briefly repeat some of the comments. Water is life. That's a simple line. It's critical to health, it's critical to communities, but it is at the crux of the biggest problem facing the world right now, climate change. We have right now 1 billion children living in countries facing severe climate impacts in the future. 83% of cities around the world, from Kolkata to California, are facing severe climate impacts. The investment that India has been making and continues to make isn't just financial, it's also in innovation, in new ways of working. If we can take the learnings, particularly around climate resilient WASH, into other countries, we have the ability to reach an extraordinary scale. So if there's one thing I would plead, is that we make sure that the learnings are documented and shared, and you hold us all accountable to make sure that we transplant what you're doing everywhere else that needs the help that you've been delivering to your people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Archana? Yeah, Gaurav?
Sure. And some of this I learned just from listening. So I guess for me, what I reflect is, let's think about what you centralize and what you decentralize as you go forward. We want to decentralize a lot of community ownership, but you need to send data, giving those communities the data to understand what's happening with climate change, where water tables are going, what is the quality of that water. That is the kind of thing that really empowers communities to be able to, take that ownership. So I think really as we go forward, thinking about the investments in what you centralize and then what you give to communities is a great way to deal with what is, we need the whole of India to be water champions, not just the government.
And water champions for the globe, right? Archana, on that note?
So the program, I think, is very well rooted in what the Gates Foundation true essence is and what we believe in. It is about equity and access. Both Swachh Bharat mission as well as Jal Jeevan mission, it's hard to believe, it is really hard to believe that even today, and you started by saying that, the country could have invested and is investing in, satellite access and infotech and digital. But it is hard to believe in today's age when we're sitting here in Davos and, the world leaders are here, everybody's that still people do not have access to safe sanitation and water. What's happened in India over the last 10 years is completely unprecedented, and I'm really grateful to the government of India, but also it is about human dignity. It is about how we live our lives. And imagine each one of us in this room, if we did not have access to toilets and if we did not have access to water, what would it have meant for each one of us? It is about living life every day with dignity. So I think the biggest thing that I take away from this program is that no matter whosoever on this planet should not be living without toilet and water. And these are the lessons that India can tell the world, because you've actually scaled the program really fast. So one is that's the fundamental. But as far as India is concerned, I completely wholeheartedly agree with Gaurav that what would make this program sustainable? I know that the government is thinking a lot in terms of, wastewater as well as solid water management, but also handing over the program to community because the toilets have to be managed as well as the water assets like you spoke about, but also future looking challenges in terms of climate and climate impact as well. So the program has to grow. And it's, normally missions do come to an end. Missions do come to an end. Yeah. So, and this is, I would say with all the fantastic results, it is still an unfinished story, right? And I would completely urge that the government continues to invest so that communities own the full program. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Archana. Yes, we have achieved a lot and we have a long way to go. Tim, can you give a
Sure.
small brief as a closing?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yeah. Three quick points. First one, I think it's in the human nature that when brilliant things are achieved, people sometimes focus on what's not right and what they need to do next. So my first point, I think, is India should be really proud and be unashamed to celebrate the progress that has been made. I really think so. Secondly, I think I said earlier, but I would really emphasize the watch out on climate change, and that you do not lose, that India does not step backwards in any of these gains. Climate change is surprising us now all over the world. Nobody really understands what is happening next. So I think being alert to these dangers, keeping in touch with the latest data on predictions on what might happen, and making those investments to make things resilient to last for the future. And then finally, just to reiterate, India is an inspiration to others, and too often I talk about what India is doing, even though maybe I get the pronunciation of the word wrong. I apologize again. But I talk about it in Africa, for instance, to leaders, and they're not always aware. So I think maybe you're being a bit modest. Speak up more.
No, we are going to be loud this time.
Loud, yes.
On that note, Anurima, can you just...
I think we've spoken a lot about the government's commitment to it. I think coming from a corporate perspective, every organization that has access to the funds, to the people, to the communities that they're working with, they need to have that commitment as well. When you're doing CSR is not just about the social impact. You have to look at climate as a very integral part of all your CSR activities. You have to look at One Health, you have to look at water, sanitation, etc. So I think that commitment definitely needs to come in. And secondly, I think our power is the number of people we have. So 1.4 billion people, let's harness their power and let's transform the kind of things that we're looking at, and let's make India even a bigger example for the global audience to look at. So, yeah.
Can you...
Yes, I think the next, probably one of the biggest things is, again, community training and education, which is already happening, again, in tune with the Ministry of Skill Development. There are programs out there. Digital tools can be used to train everybody in the community to take the right decisions. As everybody already mentioned here, the right kind of data can lead to the right decisions. So I think this also presents an opportunity for startups and innovators, which can design products suited for the rural country. So I think that's the space.
We are going to talk to startups right after this and investors in the space. But Rajiv sir, if you can just quickly summarize.
And it was nice to hear from all of you. I would like to thank all the panelists for the insights they gave to us, for the good words they had for India. And one thing I would like to add, the Indian government in the present form, when it works, it is the whole of the government approach. We have now stopped looking in the departmental approach. We look the problem as a whole, we work sector as a whole. So today, even when we look at water sector, today we are talking only about, let's say, pipe supply and sanitation. But we are also working on the other sectors of water, whether it's the cleaning of the rivers, whether it is a water conservation. Big movements are going on. So they themselves are a big stories, separate stories. So that is all I would like to say. I mean, as somebody has pointed out, a lot of work to do, and I would say miles to go. Thank you.
So humble enough, but as Tim mentioned, we need to about all that we have already achieved.
So what could be a better statement than coming to Davos and speaking about it?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll love to begin our next panel.
Yes, sir.
Panel, can you please stay put? Guys, we have a hello. Guys, we have a second panel. Can you please stay put? Guys, we can network after a bit. Can we start the second panel first? Guys, patience, right? Yeah. Guys, yeah. Guys, we can network after a bit. Yeah. I know. Sir, ये आप ही का चेयर है अर्चना
काम और मेहनत भी आपकी मिनिस्ट्री में
women centered.
सॉरी
I'll give you her number.
He helped me set
We'll do a photograph right after.
Startup and Innovation University in Gujarat.
Rajendra.
You founded it.
Hello. We'll manage the second.
managed?
Yeah.
Because she's calling me the moderator.
Tell her you are going to be done in 15. You can leave after. Hello. Thank you so much all for being seated. We did speak quite a bit about what India is doing in WASH, but there is a topic that we don't generally discuss about, right? Sanitation. We spoke earlier about open defecation free India and how India has almost achieved its goal pretty much. We are almost there, and how we are setting examples through innovation and government partnerships and through advocates and investors across the board in developing an outcome which is not just heartening, but which is an example, a shining example for the world in health, in public safety, as well as for creating a good life for the citizens of India. So, on that note, I would like to very quickly first play a quick video on what India is doing in sanitation.
10 years ago, the Swachh Bharat Mission launched with a very bold vision, and that was to transform India through improved sanitation.
The Indian government made sanitation and hygiene national priorities by mobilizing resources, engaging communities, and igniting a movement to eliminate open defecation.
The Swachh Bharat mission has transformed the lives of millions across India, providing cleaner cities and better sanitation.
The impact of this mission on sanitation and health has been amazing, particularly for the poor and for women. The mission's success is a testament to India's ability to drive meaningful change on a massive scale.
The Swachh Bharat Mission.
Team Swachh Bharat Mission. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan.
Swachh Bharat Mission.
Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan.
Swachh Bharat Abhiyan.
Swachh Bharat.
Swachh Bharat.
Swachh Bharat Abhiyan.
Swachh Bharat Mission.
Swachh Bharat Abhiyan.
Swachhata Hi Seva.
Swachh Bharat Mission.
Jai Swachhata. Namaskar.
Thank you so much. Of course, we have a transformational story which the world needs to know. And on that note, Rajeev sir, if you can just give us a small brief.
Welcome once again to all of you, especially the new ones who have joined for this session. Swachh Bharat Mission in India, as we see, has been a revolution which mobilized a force of 1 billion people, making it one of the largest movements, not only for the India, but I think in the history of the mankind, which has led to such impactful results. As you are aware, it's a program which was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister of India on 2nd October 2014. And as Sabine has pointed out very well, I mean, such kind of an issue catching the attention of the Prime Minister and Prime Minister making it a personal goal, I mean, that is what is remarkable about this program. I mean, in the drive, when we look at the result, over 100 million household toilets were built over a period of 5 years, taking the sanitation coverage, which was around 39% in 2014, to almost 100% in 2019. More than 6 lakhs villages declared themselves as open defecation free, we call it ODF, by 2nd October 2019. So in 5 years, we covered 6 lakh villages, make them open defecation free. And the symbolic importance of this was that it was a nation's tribute to Mahatma Gandhi on his 150th birthday. Now, after that, we are presently in the second phase of the program, which is called Swachh Bharat Gramin 2, and we are in the concept of ODF Plus. So whereas ODF focused on the individual toilets, ODF Plus focuses on the solid waste and the liquid waste management for the entire villages. That was the focus. And in phase 2, over 5.6 lakh villages, which is 95%, have been declared as ODF Plus. So you can very well appreciate the magnitude, the numbers which we are talking of. Now, this is as far as what we have done. Now, coming to the probable phase 3, which will come up sometime next year, what are the probable challenges, what are the probable issues which we are envisaging, and what would be the focus of the program? So one of the focus areas as we are envisaging is to ensure promotion and scaling up waste to wealth initiatives. Because a lot of waste has been captured, it has been processed, but how to generate wealth out of it, and there lies a lot of opportunity for all our partners, whether it is industry, whether it is the multilateral agencies in the industry, how to scale up. Numbers are staggering, I mean, when you look at the numbers. Second is saturation of these activities in the peri-urban areas. It's an administrative problem in India. I mean, in most of the places, we divide the problems into urban areas, into rural areas. So it's a sectoral issue, but there is a peri-urban area, something which is not really village, but something which is not even urban. So those areas are also catching our attention, how to take these activities in those areas. Second, we need a lot of innovation in terms of technologies, because present technologies have a lot of footprint, they have a lot of issues. So as we move to the next phase, we look for innovation, we look a lot of proof of concepts, a lot of technologies. Fourth, which is related to waste to wealth and maybe on other aspects, we are looking for revenue business models. This entire initiative cannot be government driven. So somehow we need partnerships, and partnerships normally thrive when you have sufficient revenue and business opportunities. So this is another aspect we are working on. And finally, startup culture. This is one area we are feeling there is a lot of room, lot of scope for startups to join in, give solutions, and take this movement forward. So this is what broadly the themes the SBM3 would be focused on. Now, expectations from the various stakeholders, they remain the same. I mean, it's a transformative change. Like to sustain it future, we need help from all of you, whether it is industry, whether it is NGOs, whether it is academic institutions, to take this movement forward. And some of the areas where we're looking cooperation from all of you are aiding in the policy formulation. All of these policies have been formed when we were trying to scale up. Now, when we look for sustaining these efforts and sort of taking them forward, we need a different policy setup. So we need good inputs, how to take this forward. Some of the initiatives which we have been taken at your level, and they are good learning lessons, they can be valuable inputs for improving the policy. Second thing is better implementation. I mean, India is a big country. The numbers you have seen are huge. And we don't claim that the implementation has been truly up to the standards at all places. There are certain shortfalls. So we need to improve upon them. So this is the place where NGOs and the institutions can help us a lot. Third, as I mentioned, waste to wealth, business models. We need a lot of proof of concepts now to scale up these efforts. And finally, as we know, India is a federal country, so states have a very important role to play. And in India, again, all the states are not on the same platform. Some states are very advanced, some states are catching up. So for the states which are catching up, we need a lot of partners who can sort of leapfrog their movement towards the next level. So these are a lot of opportunities we see for all of you to take this movement forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rajiv sir, for such a comprehensive understanding of the sanitation space and all the innovation happening in the sanitation space. We have a very interesting representation of investors, business owners, startup founders in the space of sanitation, but also multilateral organizations and champions and advocates of the cause, which have phenomenally changed the narrative of India and the landscape of Indian sanitation. But on that note, Archana, can you please tell us how can India address the deep-rooted social norms that hinder the adoption and have been slight bit of an impediment, as we initially discussed, for improved sanitation practices through advocacy and behavioral insights? You have had a world of knowledge. Can you please throw some light?
So as far as SPM is concerned, it was one of the most, again, amazing case, I would say, in terms of how you use insights for changing behaviors. First, normalization of the fact that, sanitation is important. You need, it was an example of this was even seen during COVID, where you would see people actually, to show that it's a safe vaccine, the prime minister took it. You have all people, important people taking the vaccine, and those were on the front pages of our newspapers, building confidence that it's safe, right? Likewise for sanitation, you had champions really from the top who were seen, the prime minister actually cleaning the roads and connoting to the people that it is really important that you keep your cities clean. At the same time, you had leadership within the ministry who were actually getting into the pits, the septic tanks and the pits, and those pictures were on the front pages of newspapers as well. So it is to first of all, and there were other icons as well. Why do you think Gandhi Chashma or Gandhi specs were taken as an iconic symbol for sanitation? Is because Gandhi represents cleanliness, and he was known for cleanliness and for sanitation. So, how do you choose symbols? How do you choose pictures to connote that this is really important? The Gandhi Chashma was, and his spectacles were a mnemonic that was used everywhere. It was whole of government approach. Every department was using the mnemonic everywhere. So it was, how do you stretch your a little bit in terms of resources as well? And it was put on our currency notes, right? So sanitation actually was in everybody's hands. So that's how so you're actually bringing that to the front, and you're saying it is really important because it was a mission to be achieved within five years. Norms are hugely shifted through entertainment media, right? Because it is subliminal messaging, but as I would say, that Ekta Kapoor just changed the way how Indian women looked and how they dressed up. Like you had women completely dolled up while they were going to bed, and that became a norm. But that's the power of entertainment and entertainment media. People like our celebrity who's sitting next to us, and I have a huge privilege actually, sharing space with you. They brought the message of Swachhata and sanitation to everybody. So entertainment media, you couldn't have thought a movie being made on toilets, right?
They did.
So so toilet,
love story on
exactly,
yes.
love story on toilet, right? So I think the scale was massive, and then you had to take it to community, right? So how do you mobilize community and how do you make that into a norm is about pride. So you can have messaging. So, and in like behavioral insights, you would say, okay, what are the insights that we use, or what are the triggers that you use? You could have used fear as a trigger, but in this case, the trigger and the insight was really around pride. So village after village, every village was, had this notion of I have pride because my village is ODF free. So you've given an incentive, but so you're using insights of incentives. You're using insights of what motivates you, or pride that country was able to achieve those spectacular 600,000, 700,000 villages ODF free. So I think it's if you study behavioral insights, you would actually say, oh my God, these are chapters, right? These are like literally you were taking chapters out of a behavioral insights book and you were implementing it at every level. And then, public-private partnership, where do you get extra money coming from? You have Swachhta Kosh, and corporates could contribute so that you had more resources to implement all of that, right? So there are like truly classic, you can write a book in terms of Swachh Bharat Mission, in terms of how norms were shifted. And over a period of 5 years, norms usually take a long time, behaviors take a long time to shift. If you ask me saying, hey, there's a bowl of, which is normally we say in behavioral insights, there's a bowl of sprouts and there's a bowl of popcorn. Where do you go? So, it takes a long time for shifts. But in this case, it was, again, quite phenomenal. And people do slip back, but the mission's not over. And therefore, you need to sustain and you need to be at it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Archana, for talking about the symbols and how the story. And on that note, Vivek, I would, first of all, let me introduce him, though I don't think he needs any introduction, because I've been a fan since Satya days. Where
Thank you.
Yeah. Big fan, by the way. But apart from being a phenomenal advocate, he has also been part of the Namami Ganga project from its inception days and has advocated for toilet bill for women in Uttarakhand. He has also been the global interfaith ambassador and worked with Jiva to create the Global Wash Alliance. And he's also a tech entrepreneur and a tech investor in a lot of sanitation technology. But on that note, can you please tell us a little more about how these stories and, advocates like you got, who were part of this media campaigns and part of the storytelling to drive mass level awareness for behavioral change, became a part of the story, and what was your experience in seeing the change on the field?
Firstly, thank you for a very kind introduction. See, I think I've known Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji since 2007-8. And while there could be a long list of achievements that we could roll out over the last 10 years, an unending list of achievements, I think what's important, and it's important to put out there, is his ability to change mindsets. The way he did what he did in Gujarat. See, for the rest of India or the rest of the world, they discovered him even more when he moved out of Gujarat and into the center, and thereby found out about those things. I'll tell you a small example. When I was doing a real estate project in Gujarat, upon his support, and me and a lot of other people had an experience where in other states we would go department to department to collect different documents. And I remember his line, he says that, well, if you're going to spend all your time going to departments, who's going to do the business? Let us do this for you. And I was surprised. And he'd managed to create a liaising structure which would just mobilize people who were working in Gujarat to move much faster, and therefore suddenly draw away from much more prosperous states like Maharashtra, the business community, to come into Gujarat. So he would constantly innovate by changing the way people think. And I think what he did was, by moving himself into the necessity of Swachh Bharat mission, by picking up the broom himself, by using Gandhiji's iconism to create a sense that this is also a satyagraha. This is a freedom movement, a freedom from the lack of hygiene and sanitation, a freedom for hundreds of millions of women and girls who are not being able to defecate or urinate at will or at choice. I think it's crazy how hundreds of millions of people could be captured in terms of their liberty in a free and democratic world. And he allowed the conversation to come to the forefront. And my observations were, the initiative was so well done that Hiren Joshi, Dr. Hiren Joshi from his Prime Minister's office would send personal messages to people like us and say, would you like to be involved in the Swachh Bharat mission? Would you like to do something and post it? And we'd be like, yeah, this is a good way to leverage our celebrity. This is a good way to reach out to our followers and say, let's do this. And I'll give you a personal anecdote. I run a project called Devi since 2008-9, which is basically rescuing girls from child abuse and forced labor and empowering them with free food, free education, and free healthcare in North India. And even there was resistance because even in that economic strata, there was a conversation which I overheard about some girls saying, well, in our caste, we don't clean the streets, we don't sweep. And like Modi ji did, taking a leaf from his book, I picked up the broom, being the movie star or being the bhaiya there who's, set up that initiative and provides for these children. And I started picking up the broom and just started, having a casual conversation and started cleaning up the streets, and everybody just joined in. So it's about creating that collective sense of being. But I do feel that with the government doing a lot, I think, like Archana put it very well, it's a mission, and a mission has to have a finite ending. How do we evolve this into something much more sustainable? I've worked both on the non-profit side for almost now 22 years, but also on the for-profit side. The Oberoi Family Office, the funds I sit as a GP on, we run a few multi-billion-dollar funds now, have a substantial focus on technologies that could create impact. Something that we're just investing in right now is not just a technology which is air-to-water generation made in India, much cheaper than you would make in, say, Europe or the United States, much more efficient. And it has so many applications in terms of water conservation, whether it's solar plants in arid areas that are right now using groundwater, but the minerals post-cleaning off the panels stay onto the panels. And there are issues like that. Or whether it's application in industries. We're just doing a proof of concept with Toyota for all their showrooms and their dealerships across the world to reduce groundwater consumption. But the idea is also to now work with government to create waterpreneurs, SHGs, women, empower them. I've had a wonderful conversation with Ashwini Vaishnavji, with Ram Mohan Naidu, that how can I bring in these air-to-water generators and create stakeholdership, ownership of women's groups who can then utilize that not just to sell water, reduce plastic waste in tourism areas, but also turn that water into tea, coffee, cold drinking water, nimbu pani, Maggi. I mean, a whole bunch of things, and actually create a financially sustainable model. So I think that's what is required. We require to look at different technologies also.
Thank you so much, Vivek. Archana will have to leave for the bit. Thank you so much first for gracing us with your presence. And
Thank you for having me. Thank you, sir.
thank you so much, Archana. So, Gates Foundation has done a phenomenal job in sanitation and the investment that they have done.
They were there even during the GWA when we had,
Of course.
when I was, I am the ambassador of World Health Organization
Yes.
in India, but I'm also the ambassador of Global Interfaith. And in the presence of the Dalai Lama, we had the Gates Foundation come in to interact. And there was a big statement by Swami Chidanand Saraswati, who said toilets before temples. And it created a big furor back then, but that was the commitment. Yes.
So, Rajiv sir, I
remember you being
wouldn't presume to have, place among all of you luminaries, but we still do need some women representation. So, if you don't mind me, I
Come on, Sabine.
Yeah.
Come on up on stage.
I'm so sorry. But we needed to have a woman on top, right? So, yeah. My apologies. So, thank you so much, Vivek. I think your story
My pleasure.
was, the other night when we discussed about your entire story, one day we'll make a movie out of that one as well, right? Don't you believe?
Davos ek prem katha.
Of course. But moving on, I would love to, because you spoke about investing and the work that new enterprises are doing, I would actually want to talk to Stefan a little bit. You are a young entrepreneur in the space of sanitation. You have worked extensively in biochar. How can innovations in sanitation technology, in your opinion, be designed and implemented to meet the needs of underserved communities, especially while ensuring sustainability?
Yeah, thank you so much. And first of all, thank you for having. So first, I want to say, like, how did I start my startup story, right? And it's basically I'm just so deep in love with big problems, right? And who are solving big problems? Usually talents, right? We need to have a lot of talents, gifted people working on this. So before I answer your question, I will quickly make a few remarks there. So my background is from ETH Zurich and University of St. Gallen, from projects I was leading there. And we were competing against MIT or TU Munich or other big universities, right? And there's bright minds. And I know that, for example, for engineers, they love to work on rockets, they love to work on cars, right? But some of the big problems are more like climate change, sanitation. They might not have all this prestige that is around all these still very important problems, right? But we have to have really bright minds on these problems. And what we did is we have a running pilot where we produce biochar, and biochar is an amazing product, right? So we reached out to communities. So I had the pleasure to be in Bengaluru not so long ago, and I was talking to a lot of communities there. So we really drove off like 4 or 5 hours into very rural communities and talked to them about biochar. And we already saw that they're fighting so much with the impacts of climate change. And we really enjoy these encounters, because your question was like, how can we ensure that we build the right technologies for these communities, right? And we think it's mainly community-centric design. We have to talk to them. We have to understand these communities. They probably know best what is good for them, right? Like, who am I to tell them how they should, what they should do, right? I want to learn from them. And what we did is, and I brought a small sample with me, is we produced biochar. And biochar is such a great product because it combines sanitation and climate change. So what we do is we use bio-waste, comes from, for example, from coconut production. We can turn it into biochar, and then this stores carbon for 1,000 years, right? So we use this to fight climate change. But at the same time, if you want to take a smell test, I put some manure on it, and you cannot smell anything, right? So it helps. It's a
carbon filter.
It's a carbon filter, right? It just sucks all these bad odors in and doesn't release it, right? And suddenly you have communities who have sometimes been burning bio-waste, starting to produce biochar, helping the planet, but then also using this biochar for sanitation, right? And I think we need to really show these
retaining moisture.
Exactly, in the soil, right?
In the soil.
We produce organic fertilizer, right? And help the farmers. So suddenly, out of, let's say, a small engagement with the community, you build so much, you even build jobs in these regions, right? In these communities. And I think before, in the panel before, it was said, we have to scream louder, like all these success stories, right?
Yes.
So many people watch rocket launches, right?
Yeah.
But this has a huge impact. Stories like this, and startups are building it, right? So we have to shine the light on these stories and just show how much you can do if you work with communities.
So let's make biochar sexy. Yeah. No, but I would actually want to, Jali, thank you so much for coming in. You are a VP of Sustainability for Capgemini. And, as large enterprises as yours, what are the strategies in your thoughts that can be employed to ensure sanitation solutions are scalable and adaptable across different geographies and through each and every different socioeconomic context? Because this is a story worth saying, and this is an outcome worth having.
So, okay, it's okay. Thank you. So I'm not just from Capgemini. I come from the world of advisory as well as investments. And over the years, having worked with lots of sustainable startups and sustainable solutions, looking at different use cases in different environments, when it comes down to sanitation, I think we can't talk about sanitation without looking at waste. So it's waste and sanitation. Waste can be inorganic. It can be organic. And when it comes to organic waste, then you can split it whether it's coming from agrarian sources, which can lead to biochar, or it's coming from domestic sources. Because you need to keep these waste streams separate. That's one of the biggest challenges that we have in developing countries right now. In terms of scaling solutions, I think corporations like mine, so I've not only worked for Capgemini, I've worked with Accenture and Deloitte. If I combine all the Indian employees of these three companies, we have about 500,000 Indian employees. So when it comes down to corporates, I think they need to work together with policymakers and figure out for the specific use cases and for the specific types of wastes, what kind of waste streams can be created, and what is the next step for those waste streams? Do we recycle them? Do we upscale them? Do we turn them into biochar and turn them into either fertilizer or even insulation in construction materials? So all of these things are open, rather than coming right at the end and coming up with extended producer responsibilities that, because you've produced X amount of plastic, you have to pay X amount of things. So to Rajiv, sir, I think you mentioned that you're looking for scalable business models which can be implemented. One of the problems that we've created over the last 20, 30 years is the problem of plastic bottles. Drinkable water is a human right, but accessibility is so scarce. Industries tried to solve that problem by providing bottled water in remote sources. But industries, these companies are not really interested in shipping or trucking plastic bottles from one part of the country to another part of the country. They just want to make a margin out of providing access to a scarce resource. They can work together with governments to create the public infrastructure and still take a margin out of that. That'll be much cheaper for these companies and still create a win-win situation for everybody. And reduce the carbon footprint in total. So overall, from India's NDCs, so there's tons and tons of use cases that we can look at. India being an agrarian country, so biochar is one. So I'm working with an organization which works with like 280,000 farmers in India alone.
Oh, amazing.
So it's an organization called Carbonaires. They work with farmers to create biochar and find different kind of use cases in those societies and environments.
350 million tons a year of agro waste.
There you go. That is waste that can be converted into something useful in its next life. If somebody wants to make a lot of money right now, my investment suggestion to you is buy a landfill site.
I completely agree.
All those scarce minerals have already been extracted and they've been dumped into those landfill sites at no premium at all.
No, what a perspective, right?
Yeah.
I mean, make best from waste.
Wageningen University in Netherlands, they were Wageningen University, Netherlands, the director is a dear friend, and something fantastic they've been doing for the last 5-6 years is biomining manure.
Yeah, completely
To pull out rare minerals and which are otherwise very, very expensive to synthesize. They're pulling it out of manure, and now the repurposing of the manure into fertilizer is just a tiny fraction of what they're making in comparison with this idea. So I think innovation can lead the way.
No, on that note, Ankit is the founder of Riceberg Ventures, and they have been investing extensively in deep tech. So on that thought, would love to understand what are your new technologies coming in sanitation and waste management, solutions like, carbon chains, blockchain-based solutions, which are around green tokens. What are the kind of things that you see as an investor coming up as Jalid already mentioned, what are the new things that can come up, which entrepreneurs who will be listening to this, I'm sure, can invest their time and their thoughts into?
No, amazing. And thank you, everyone. So I feel like I have very less to say because a lot what I wanted to say was already covered by a lot of you, which is amazing because that makes my, and I'll try to keep it short. So most important part here that, we are a deep tech investor, right? So primarily our focus is primarily on technology to solve a problem. And one of the things that we do, right, whenever we are qualifying any technology, whenever it comes and get pitched to us, so we normally characterize them on 3 different criteria. We ask the entrepreneur what you are trying to achieve, how it's done today. So let's say if Stefan is there, then it will be like, okay, they are currently burning it, right? Now, whatever is the current status quo, then we ask question, how your technology makes it better, and better in the sense in 3 criteria, which we normally just focus upon: cheaper, faster, or safer. And that has to be not like 20% more or 30% more. It has to be a very much high scale, like, 4x, 5x better than whatever is happening in there. And that is achievable by technology, right? And that particular innovation, when comes in a market, that it just makes it cheaper. So it's easy to drive adoption. It's easy to scale and also easy to sustain, that we talked about, because government can do only so much by running missions, as we discussed. But after that, sustainable business will come when the economics makes sense to that. And this is what we look after, and we go across all the sectors. So to the Stefan's point, I mean, we have invested in Bichar and also rocket companies. So actually, we celebrate both. So both has its own own advantage to it. So this is exactly where we think. And when it comes to specifically of waste management, just one quick pointer I want to, because we are quite running out of time, so I'll keep it short. That decentralization, the earlier, let's say 50 years back or even 100 years back, the technology around the world was being built towards centralization. If you go in Europe, you have centralized waste management, you have centralized all the area. Now, point is that these were the technology, they were the best choice taken 200 years back, because this is all the technology we had. If we do in a very uncontrolled way, things may go out of the hand. But with new technology, decentralization is possible, right? So now, point is, do we have to, whenever we are building any country like India or anywhere, do we have to follow the same playbook that was built 200 years back, or we work on innovating new technologies which can do it very differently? And this will only come from the people who are on the ground, right? So this innovator also has to come from this, actually, who are facing problem. Just as an anecdote, I grew up in a village and we were using chapakal, actually, if you know, hand pump. That's how we started. And actually, probably 2 years back or something, when we got our first water tap. I also visit my village quite frequently. I still spend at least a month a year in my village. So these are the actually on-ground problem. But now with decentralization, with using new technologies, I can just go hours and hours listing them, but it's all possible. And I'm very happy that at least there is a alignment here. And we as an investor, that's all we want, right? That if we see there is an opportunity, we make money out of it, right?
Awesome. And I think if we build this, good financial solutions, or rather not financial solutions, good businesses, because I'm a Gujarati, the dhanda is one thing I understand. But if we make, profitable companies in this space, it's also an inspiration for others to do the same. And on that note, I would like to introduce Prabir. Prabir, for those who don't know, well, most of us would, has founded 2 large unicorns in the space. And Prabir, what are your thoughts as an overarching quick understanding on what are the, how is this space evolving and is going to create large sustainable businesses?
Great. First of all, thanks to you and Ankit for inviting me over, because I don't know anything about water or climate. But having said that, my own background has been nuclear. My early part of my career, I spent 11 years in Bhabha Atomic Research Center running their research reactors, information systems. And thereafter, of course, I spent another 10, 20 years in technology, and now as an entrepreneur. And I run my own family office, and my general counsel and CFO is also here. And I happen to be happy to be part of the 2 companies, one which I co-founded, which is probably going for an IPO this year. And one I'm sitting on the board as independent director. That's also a technology company in the emerging space. So on climate, I think today the time has come to think freshly, and I think Rajiv alluded at it. I think we need to do a root and branch reset of how we've looked at this boring subject of climate and sustainability. Now, if I did a LLM on all the work that has gone on the last 10 years in Swachh Bharat, Yamuna Action Plan, Mission Ganga, I'd really like to know what have been the OKRs out of OKR, as you all guys know, is John Doe's famous words, objectives and key results. John Doe sat on my board for a couple of years, so we learned a lot of stuff from him. We evaluate dispassionately what were your aims and objectives and how much have you come? And have you really achieved what you set out to do? I suspect we may be falling short of that vision. So though Mission Ganga has been successful, more than 3,000 crores have been put into it. And this year's the Kumbh Mela, I believe the water quality is pretty good.
Not 3,000. It's a 3 billion program.
Okay, so we're not going to go there on that value. And I'll have more questions. But let's look at the Yamuna Action Plan, which has been around since the 90s. Yet Yamuna gets polluted every year with soap, which affects downstream as well as also creates bad air quality. That's not been sorted. So what we're doing is we're doing well in pockets, but we're not doing well in mass. When I landed in Switzerland, my first impression was roads, 10 tunnels. Why? And everything was smooth. And the SOP here is standardized, templatized. If I travel from Bombay to Pune, it's not the same level of quality of service, quality of air, quality of life, quality of environment. There's great quality in pockets. And just as you step outside, there's absolute rubbish quality. Let me give you an example from my early days. There was a very large IT-enabled services called, I think it got acquired by Wipro. It was the first company which bought in SpectraMind. It bought in IT-enabled services into India. So they were replicating the US offices in India, in Okla. So it worked 3 shifts throughout the day and night. It looked like you entered the plant, you looked like you're anywhere in the US or UK. You stepped out the gate and you fell into a ditch because there's no road to the gate. It's like that. So they did a great job. And I used to see these foreigners come, the clients come to do work there, and they had to climb over this mound and go over a board. And then, so I was wondering how come they're giving so much of work? Because the cost factor, they had no option. But just see that till that area is fine, and outside again, it's just not templatized. So my 4-point program, to make it short, guys are running short of time. One, as somebody said, public, private and community partnerships, need more of that. Number 2, this is the time for tech to startups, so Clean Tech 2.0, bring in startups. Number 3 is policies need to be changed fast and redone with the view of how to encourage startups and entrepreneurs to come into that space so that we can get quicker results. And I think that's been a bit of a stumbling block. And finally, I guess it's as Vivek was saying that, the insurance companies create fear to make you buy insurance. And then Modi went and created Pride to have better, sanitation, toilet, water. And then somebody said sexy. So we need to make climate sexy or sanitation sexy. All these environmental factors sexy, just like your favorite Veblen good. You should want more of it regardless of the price.
Yeah.
Right? And when we all do it at the same time, then you have massification of that user experience. Then we would have made a change. Otherwise, it's Davos. It's just talk the talk, but less of walk the talk.
No, I completely agree. We do have a long way to go. But that being said, on the governance front, on the technology front, and on the implementation and the story front, we have certainly come a long way. We have, who could have imagined 15 years ago us sharing a stage with bureaucrats like Sir and actually exchanging ideas, and they are actually listening. My God, I am really surprised because I remember what the world was before 2014. It was really, really different. So that being said, Sir, if you can throw some light on what impact the Swachh Bharat mission has created on women's safety and dignity. Because today I have moved back to India after 16 years of staying in Europe and US. And I think India is much better in almost all counts. And how has it contributed to gender equality, especially for rural women?
Right. That is one of the very important questions, and the way we measure the impact of this program. I mean, there are 2-3 factors which I would like to say here. First is like the respect and dignity. I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, it is a no-brainer. I mean, once you have access to a toilet in your home, I mean, the kind of respect and kind of dignity a woman gets, I mean, that is obvious. Second thing I would like to say is about the employment opportunities. This is also very interesting. I mean, the whole sanitation sector, once it has opened up, it has created a lot of opportunities for the women, whether it is a sanitary napkins, whether it's the small sanitary products, all these small SHGs. I mean, they're also really startups, as I see. I mean, so a lot of opportunities have come for the women. Now you find women workforces in the villages, in the districts, who are taking care of all these toilets, their repairs, the bigger fecal STPs, the place where we treat all these treated plants. Many of them are being managed by the women entrepreneurs, women SHGs. So the whole lot of sector has opened up, the sanitation sector, in terms of employment opportunities for the women. Third thing which I would like to highlight, it's not really as a woman, it's about as a family and the population as a whole. And assuming 50% of them are women, how the program has impacted the women. And these are all, documented figures. WHO in 2018 has said that SBM has saved about 3 lakh diarrhea deaths. So assume 50% of them are women. So that is a number impact in terms of the health.
150,000 women.
Yes. Second, it says in terms of the child health, the infant health, it says almost 50% higher cases of wasting are found in cases where the sanitation cases are poor. So again, a big thing for the women. 93% women feel safer. This goes same as we have already discussed. Then again, UNICEF report says that almost 50,000 rupees per family was saved in view of the improved health and the health cost associated with falling ill. So 50,000 rupees is a big amount when you look at the per capita income in the Indian context. In terms of the environmental impact, 12.7 times the groundwater contamination got reduced. And in terms of child death, almost 60,000 to 70,000 child deaths are being reduced annually. Assume 50% to be women. So 30,000 child women deaths are being reduced annually. So these are big impacts, Simon.
No. In the lieu of repeating myself again, but who would have thought that we could have made sanitation sexy and such great impact? So twice the number of lives saved than breast cancer in India, right? And on that note, just as a closing, Vivek, if you can start, can you give us a few thoughts on what is your vision on ways ahead?
Look, I've personally experienced even deeper impact. I mean, Rajiv Bhai is telling us very, very impressive data and statistics. But when I started Project Devi and being a movie star, I went into villages in North India. Everybody was excited about, oh, there's a movie star here. He's coming to our village to see us. And I said to them, this is the promise. I will give your children free food, free education, free healthcare. Just send me your girls to our schools. I will pick them up and drop them. And they said, we'll send the boys, not the girls. And I couldn't understand. I went in a circle of 14 villages. I personally traveled to these villages and they said, we'll send the boys, we won't send the girls. And when I delved deeper and I asked, why not the girls? Why not the girls? Well, who's going to go fetch the water? And here I saw these girls, 7, 8 years old, matka upon matka, pot upon pot on their heads, walking kilometers barefoot, 50, 52 degree heat, sun, going up and down. Source of water is dirty, hard water. The ladies are using firewood to burn the water, boil the water for cooking rice. That process of cooking rice is taking hours and hours. And I saw this whole circle of life and I realized that from the mother to the daughter, they're trapped in this cycle and an essential part of it is water. And when I realized that if I needed to break them out of this, we needed to find a way to solve this. And at a micro level, for those 14 villages, before even focusing on education and school, I focused on building piped water into the center of the village, 2008, 9, 10, in these 14 villages. That gave us the goodwill to be able to get the girls in classrooms, to be able to give them free food, free education, free healthcare, turn around their entire malnutrition story. Because it was the girls who would go fetch the water, work hard, help their mothers, cook the food, be relegated to second choice when food would run out. I remember little ones telling me that when food runs out, my mother and I, we just drink some water and tie our stomachs with a chunni. You know what a chunni is? The fabric that girls wear in India. And tie our stomachs with a chunni so it would just stop feeling the pain of an empty stomach. That's what motivated me to go out there and do this. And when we did, we suddenly had a phenomenal response where now more than 14,000 girls have benefited from free food, free education, free healthcare, been empowered, gone on to scholarships, and are contributing back in a circular way back to the same project. It doesn't belong to me. I don't own the project. The project belongs to every single stakeholder. So you encourage community, you encourage stakeholdership, you solve a problem for them, win their trust. Just being a movie star or being somebody who has a big fancy name of foundation or an NGO is not enough. You win their trust, you do something that they need, you solve their problem today. And that's when you get that participation. That's what my experience has been. And I think that's what the government's doing now at this scale. The reason why Modi ji in the villages is not only looked upon as the prime minister of the country, but almost like the village elder, the elder of the family.
Father
They've got that connect with him is because he's solving issues that they are actually experiencing. So that's my 2 bits. Sorry, it was a little bit of a passionate submission.
No, of course. I mean, not only the work that you are doing with Project Devi, but the testament to storytelling, right? You are able to inspire that emotion in others. And I believe that is essentially what has driven the mission, the story, and the passion, and how it has been translated to people. And on that note, Ankit and Jalid, if you can quickly give us your closing remarks.
I think mostly what I'm just echoing what is being said, right? That firstly, we have to identify problem. We have to be self-critical. Of course, we have to encourage what is going on, but also how we can solve it. We should look after the technology and talent that we have in the country, how we can solve it. And then third, once it's solved, to drive adoption, then comes in a place what you did, is basically creating that advocacy around it, creating the brand around it, that it becomes sexy. If just we keep doing that for most of the problems that we have in country, we'll have infinite success story to be built. And that's what is the potential. And also other fellow investors sitting here, that's the opportunity in India, actually.
Thank you so much, Jalid.
Yep. So there are 2 main points I'd like to mention. When you start developing infrastructure like water and sanitation and waste management in a rural area, one of the biggest benefits that you create for that environment is economic development. Nobody, and I've been away from home for over 25 years. I shouldn't be the one saying this, but nobody wants to give up their friends and family and move across to the other part of the country or the other part of the world to earn a living if that's available locally.
Yeah.
If you have clean water, clean sanitation, and waste management in your locality, you've already removed the incentive of migration or internal displacement for a vast majority of people. And that brings, then you can have local doctors who understand local social norms and cultures. You can have local education providers who understand not just the needs of the kids, but they also understand, what was that person's grandfather and what was that person's uncle and what were they doing when they were in school. So you create that entire community, and you reduce the incentive for this urbanization trend and creating these pressures on urban infrastructure, and develop your rural areas further. That is a very, very critical need for a country like India. I live in a village over here in Switzerland. I've lived in villages for the last 25 years, but I have everything. I can't tell the difference between the village and the city. So that's a major thing that needs to happen. And the second point, if you save a male life, so in a traditional kind of environment, you've saved the breadwinner in the family. If you save a female life, you've saved an entire household.
And the next generation.
Yeah.
Prabir, in one statement.
Yeah, I'll try to be very short. Use some tips. One is Vivek for funding and brand ambassador for critical projects. People like Stefan, Sabine, Ankit for the startup, the new base of entrepreneurs coming into this space. And third, for Rajiv, I really want that policy document to be not written by Big Four and large blue chip guys from overseas. I want it to be written by entrepreneurs. During COVID, I ran Bombay's only COVID dashboard. And Ashwini Bide, who I met yesterday, was thankful for it. That's how I connected with her yesterday, because there was no other dashboard when I did it to my house. Secondly, during COVID, I also put up a proposal that how do we get vaccines to everybody? I said, use Flipkart, Amazon, all these guys, because they have synchronized the delivery system to the last digit of the PIN code overnight, but nobody thought about this. So if you bring these guys in, they will be able to bring in solutions sitting at home in double quick time. And Ankit would probably endorse this. When Kerala and Madras have floods, who helps everybody? It's not the government. It's the entrepreneurs who are writing code, finding people in the floods, getting aid to the people through their apps immediately. Right? It's not the government. So let's not overstate what the role of government is. I think government should be light and should get out of the way and let entrepreneurs get on with it. I worked in the government for 11 years. I was speechwriter to 2 chairmen. So I know I worked with a lot of IAS officers. Keep out. Let us get it. We'll make you look good. We don't take the credit. No, we don't want the credit. You take the credit. We are good. We don't even want the money. I don't want the money. We just want to see that the country moves forward.
Of course. And Stefan.
That's just an interesting point, because in my village, Flipkart arrived before the water.
Sure.
Actually.
But
आप ही
Flipkart
बताओ
was
ये
able
क्या
to
करना है?
arrive because now we have liberalization. But on that note, Stefan, if you can please, because you are the youngest on the panel, I know that. And also you are truly working in innovation and technology. If you can quickly summarize, it will be really helpful.
Yeah, so we will continue to do 2 things. So first of all, we will work really hard on the technology, because the biochar technology is not there yet, right? So we still have to put in R&D in that, so it can be massively scaled in India, but also in other countries. And the second thing is we will continue to work with communities and learn from them and have their bright minds help us to implement our solution in their communities. And just a very small anecdote, I had the privilege of giving a speech in the Science Gallery in Bengaluru and about biochar, and I met so many so passionate university students who were asking all the naughty questions about biochar and what we have to do. And
Like me.
like you. And I see a very bright future for India. I met so many great talent there.
Thank you so much to all the naughty students and to all the innovation coming in this space, which was never talked about but is now in the forefront. Thank you so much all for staying here for not just 1 but 2 hours now and listening to our story. Thank you, Vivek. You're very kind. Thank you so much. We'll just have a quick photo of the panel. And please, just 1 photo of the panel. And no, come in, please.
Oh, come. Are you getting everyone? पीछे जाओ भैया.
Wide angle lens.
You know it best.
Cheers, mate.
Just looking at the center.
Brilliant.
Sorry, can I just ask you some choice? One side. Yeah. Center the lens, everyone. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.